Hi there, my name is Bob, and this is my new project. I'm going to build a Jon boat, and this is my material list. I'm down here on my RV in Southern California, and I'm from Canada, and I wanted a project to keep me busy, and we're right on the Colorado River where it's pretty shallow, so I decided to build myself a little Jon boat, and I'm going to put a jet ski motor in it. And so I'm going to film this video all the way through the different stages of building this. So we started off with 4 sheets of just slightly over 1/2 inch plywood. They have odd sizes down here, so it's just slightly over 1/2 inch. Good one side. The other side's pretty good as well. You have to kind of pick and choose. I've got 150 feet of pine 1x2s. I've got one piece of 8-foot 1x6 pine, and the rest of it is the brown stuff is oak, and that's going to be for the exterior bottom runners, so that it doesn't scrape the bottom of the river or whatever. So that's basically, also you need 3 boxes of screws, 2 boxes of 1 1/4, and 1 box of 1 3/4. And basically that's about it. You need some couple of the big jars or tubes of glue, and everybody recommends Gorilla Glue because it's waterproof. And you need a couple other small things. You need a clamp that'll clamp 16 inches. I drew my own plans, and it's going to be for a 14-foot long by 4-foot bottom, and it's going to bevel out to about 4.5 feet at the top wide. I don't know all the nautical terms for that, but and that's what it's going to be. Okay, here's the start of my boat. I'm doing the bottom right now. So I've got 2 sheets of a little bit more than 1/2 inch, just barely more than 1/2 inch plywood. I think it's 0.16 or something like that. And because I want a 4x8 or 4x14 boat, I had to cut 2 feet off of 1 sheet, and I just cut straight off 1 sheet to make it 14 feet because they're in 4x8 sheets. This is exterior grade plywood. Don't get the kind with a double core in the middle. Get the good stuff that's got 5 ply exterior grade. And then what I did is I put them together and just weighed them down on some little sticks so that they're fairly level. And then I took a measurement 6 inches from each edge of the plywood in to get that little bit of a pointy part, and I went back 4 feet, made a mark, and then I took a flexible ruler like the one that you see there, and I clamped it onto one end, and I put a couple little tiny finishing nails just part way in to hold it so it would bend properly. So if you come down 2 feet, you can put a nail in at 2 1/4 inches, and that will be the perfect bend. So if you come down 2 feet from the end, put a finishing nail in, and then put a finishing nail right on the edge of at the 4-foot mark, right on the edge of the ruler, and then just bend it around, and then put a little tiny nail at the 6-inch mark at the end. Then you've got that perfect little curve, and then draw your line, and then take I highly recommend using a skill saw because it'll cut around these type of bends real easy, and you don't get that jaggedy cut like you would get with a jigsaw. And so that's where I am right now, and now I'm going to do some marking and stuff like that, and I'll come back in a few minutes here. Okay, I'm back again. Now I've got the sides, one side up, and I just thought I would show you how I did it. I used 2 pieces of plywood because the boat's 14 feet, so it's one 6-foot by 16 inches and the other one's 8-foot by 16 inches. And I joined them exactly the same way at the same spot with the with that 1x10 that I put in, or 1x8 it is actually. And then what I did is, of course, I wetted the joints, and when you lift up on the back a little bit, the side joint gets snugs up real tight, and the top of the side joint, when I first put it on, had a gap in it, so I just lifted slightly to the back, tightened that gap. Of course, I put the glue, wetted it down and put the glue in first, and then I just clamping the top to keep it straight, and I put some boards just to hold as straight as I can right now. It's just means I don't have to put as much pressure on it later when I do an outbow on it. And what I did basically is I seamed, as the glue came out of the crack, I just kind of rubbed it in and get it right into the crack as good as you can, and then the paint will look after the rest. And the toughest part, of course, is you know, getting that bend in there. You really do need two people on this particular, any of that bending, you need two people on it. The one thing you have to do is you have to use a large clamp and you start at the bow, right at the bow once it's flush, and clamp the top of the side plywood down underneath the bottom and squish it together before you put that first screw in. You want it as tight as you can at the bottom. So that's the most important thing you're going to do here. It will suck it in. If it's not up against the 1x2, the screw will suck it in. It's nice to have somebody with their foot pushing it in for you, but okay, that's all I'm going to do right now on this one. And so I'll go inside and you'll see me again when I have the backs and the other sides on. Okay, we're back again now, and I've got a little bit more done on the bottom. So basically, the first thing I did was I cut my sheets of plywood out. What I did is I went 6 inches from the top in, and 6 inches on the other side in. Went down 4 feet, which is that second batten there you see, and then took a ruler and made a curve, cut the plywood out to that curve. Then I placed the board, the sideboard, and I'm making mine 16 inches high, but it might be a little bit too high, but 14 or 12 would probably work for you as well. Depends what you're going to do with the boat. I'm taking the boat out into the ocean, so it's I wanted a little extra height on the sides. And what you do basically is you just lay your board, the straight edge, the bottom straight edge along before the bend, and then when you get to the bend area, you just have somebody hold that board along the lip of the plywood, and then you bend that piece around, and then just scribe the top of because it's got the floor's got a bend in it, so you just scribe that on the side, cut that out, and then put that one on another 16-inch board and make 2 of them, 1 for each side. Okay, sorry about the jiggling here, but and then what I did is I took my rails, and you have to do the sides first before you put these rails in, because you don't have the room to scribe it otherwise. So do the scribing and just leave the sides alone. Then you got to put these 1x2s in along the side, leaving yourself the thickness of the plywood along the edge, so that the plywood will saddle in on top of the bottom plywood and up against that rail. And I did that on both sides. I put the rail 1x2s. So what you end up doing is you mark out the mine's a 1/2 inch plywood, so you mark out the 1/2 inch mark all the way along, and then you put your boards up along that line. And I did the same over there. And then what I did with this one here is I just leave these boards a little bit extended past the end of the plywood, and don't worry about it because you're going to cut it after. And then when you put your front board in, cut it. It's going to be a little bit of an angle on the edges, on the ends, I mean, sorry, and put it in at your 1/2 inch plywood mark, and then when you have that line, scribe it across and cut the ends of the long 1/4 or 1.5 inch pieces. And then what I did is along here, I did every 2 feet I put a 1x2 across except for where the plywood, two plywoods joined. I use a 1x10, same height, but 1x10, and I put lots of screws in it, as you can see, just to make sure, and lots of glue. I put glue in the crack as well between the two seams, and really glue it in well, and lots of screws. And then I put the back, and what I did on the back for mine is I left a double thickness of plywood on the back, and the reason is I'm going to double up the plywood just in case you want to use an outboard motor or something on it. Just one piece of plywood isn't going to be good enough. So what I did is I decided to put a 1-inch thickness in there. Now if you want to go buy 1-inch plywood or whatever, you can do that, but I'm just going to join two boards together and use pieces that are left over from my 4 sheets, and I'm going to do that. And basically that's all I've done so far. The bending of the end pieces is a little bit tricky, because not only are you bending it sideways, but you're bending it down, and that's the only time you're going to need someone to help you, because what you have to do is you have to I used an 8-foot piece along here, as you can see, and what I did is I temporarily screwed it down with 3 screws along the straight stretch right there, and then so that it wouldn't kick out, and then with somebody helping me, I pulled it across the top right at the end there, and the leverage will make it bend. It's easy, but it's not that easy. And then as you go, you got to clamp each where you're going to screw with just a little clamp to get it real nice and tight, and then put your screw in and move your clamp over, and then put another screw in, and keep doing that until you get that bend in there and it's nice and tight in there. I'm not worrying about the foam on the inside of the boat. The only thing you have to do is you have to clean all the foam out from the outside edge of the 1x2 along the plywood, where the next piece of plywood is going to go. Now if you're going to use Gorilla Glue like I did, there's 2 ways of cleaning it. You can clean it just when you freshly put it on, and you have to wipe it 3 or 4 times every 2 or 3 minutes as it seeps out with a wet cloth, or just let it foam out. Take a sharp knife and go cut along the 1x2, through the foam, and then go sideways and along the plywood and cut it out, and it'll come out real easy. It's just foam. I suggest you do that within an hour while it's still somewhat soft, because once it gets harder, it's a little tougher to cut. Use a nice sharp knife, X-Acto knife, and it'll work really well for you. And that's what I've got so far. And now I'm going to put the sides back and front on, and everything's ready for the back, sides, and front. Now the only thing I'm going to do is, everybody suggests that, because everything I've done is I borrowed it off different people. What I've done is went through several videos and lots of write-ups and stuff like that to get, and I took the best of a lot of plans to do this. And what you're going to need is, you're going to need the back, on the back and the front, you're going to need the top part of it wider than the bottom part, just so you can get a little flare on the sides. Now you don't need a whole lot, but I'm going to do that. Now you can't use a 4-foot piece of plywood on edge, because it's only 4 feet and you can't get any more on the top. So you're going to have to take a 16, one of your extra 16s that you're going to have. You have one piece of 16 inch by 8 foot, and you're going to have to cut that and use one for the back and one for the front. I'm probably going to flare it 3 inches to the top, maybe even 2 inches. I'm not sure yet. It depends what it looks like. Okay, thank you.